Alright guys, ZFR back here, and we are going to talk about last night's episode of Walking Dead, episode 809. That's right, it was the season 8 mid-season premiere. And just spoiler alert, spoiler warning, all of that, because there was a really big death in this episode, so there was something pretty big in here. So if you don't want to be spoiled, if you haven't caught up, I suggest you go watch it yourself, or go on the internet, find some clips or whatever you need to do. But pretty much the basis of what happened is in last night's episode we did lose Carl Grimes. That's right, Carl died in last night's episode, and it's been ever since it was revealed a couple months ago that he was bitten. A lot of people have been really upset with this, including myself. I made a rant video about this, and this is going to kind of be another rant video, because here's the thing. I want to talk about how I feel about the way they did the death. I want to talk about whether I still agree with the death or not, and I just want to talk about everything surrounding this choice that they made, and how I think it's going to affect the show, how I think the show can go forward with this choice being made, and just all of that in general. So let me just say this off the bat. The way they executed this episode, the way they went about Carl dying throughout the episode, I thought it was done well. I thought it was executed well. Especially that last scene where he shoots himself in the head or whatever. Like they don't even show it. You see Rick and Michonne outside of the church, and you hear the little gunshot, and they both just flinch when they hear it, and Rick starts crying. It's done well. It's done in a good way, I feel, but at the same time, I still feel like for Carl Grimes, I'm sorry, this is definitely a bad, like, this whole choice was definitely a a loss in my opinion. It was a L. Like I'm trying to find the right way to say it, but that's the basis of like what this was. This was like a massive mistake in my opinion. This was still at the end of the day a failure on the part of AMC. Like I don't understand why they chose to kill this character off so early. And the only reason I am so strongly attached to this opinion is because I'm sorry. I know what people say that not everything has to be like the comics, but the truth is there are just some things that are far superior in the comics than there are on the show. And I'm not gonna lie, lately it's been looking like the comics is going to be the superior version of Walking Dead forever. The show keeps going down the route it is. And let me just throw out there that without question, without question in my mind, the comic version of Carl is the superior version. I'm sorry, the TV show version was just not as good in my opinion. I think he could have been if they didn't kill him off so early. I think he had an arc coming up in the new beginning in season 9 where he could have really signed as a character, where they could have finally gave him a few more chances, because his acting in this episode was pretty good. Like at least in my opinion, I thought he did a really good job. And I know that's always been something people are saying, that he needs to brush up on his acting skills and stuff. I think these past couple of episodes, it's really been showing that he is improving. I think it was good. But now he's dead. We're not going to get to see all that stuff from the comics with Carl and Lydia and everything. And I don't like it. I don't like it. We're not going to get to see Carl go to Hilltop. We're not going to see Carl and Maggie at Hilltop and everything like that. The blacksmith Carl. We're not going to see any of that. And that would have been a lot for that character. That would have improved that character so much. In my opinion, that is the peak height of when that character is great, and they killed him off right before he reached like the absolute height of his character. I don't like it whatsoever. To be honest, and this pisses me off even more when I think about this, because to be honest, with the way the comics is set and with the way the show is somewhat following the comics, but you know, straying from them at the same time, if you really had to kill Carl off, you could have waited one more season and you could have replaced his death with Andrea's death from the comics, which is what this kind of felt like. But you could have did that next season with the Whisperers and stuff when they come in. And so yeah, like honestly, I just don't get this. There are a ton of different ways you could have done this. You could have kept him on longer. That would have been the right thing to do. You could just kept him on the show and not even thought about killing him off, because I don't know whose idea that was, but that was a terrible idea in my opinion. And then if you really did have to kill him off, you had a way better opportunity to do it coming up, like within the next season or the next two seasons. You didn't. This just felt out of place. I mean, don't get me wrong. The episode was good. The episode was good, but I feel like the overall choice that was made in the episode to kill Carl and last episode, I feel like that choice is just going to be something that damages the show going forward. I mean, that's something you can't take back. And let me tell you something. There are going to be, if y'all think people are mad now about this Carl death, if Robert Kirkman comes out in the comic and you know Carl has like some other awesome story arc in the comic coming up in the next few issues or whatever, and you know he starts doing some awesome stuff in the comics, people are going to be pissed even more. People are going to be salty that they killed him, and I don't blame them. I mean, and no, yeah, it's true, the story can technically go forward without Carl. In the comics, he's not that big of a part of it. Like, I mean, he's a big part of the story as in the characters, but in terms of where, like, the actual world building and where the story and stuff, the main story goes, Carl isn't really at the anywhere near the center of that. I feel like the closest he is being Rick's son in the story. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of potential there to do stuff with him. There's a lot of potential there to keep the show and the story alive with Carl, even past Rick. And I feel like they just threw a lot of that away. You know, I feel like Carl always represented hope. He always represented the younger generation. Well, technically, when you think about it, Carl represents like the first generation after the zombie apocalypse. Even though he was born before it, like he had to grow up in that world, so he's kind of the representation of young people in the apocalypse. And I feel like the fact that they just killed. I'm sorry, the death was just not a good idea in my opinion. I'm still going to have to stick with that point. Once again, it was executed beautifully in this episode. I feel like they did at least a decent job of giving him a send-off. But to be honest, like, I still could have thought of a bunch of different ways that would have been way better to kill him off if you had to do it. Like, I mean, you could at least gave him something. If you were going to kill Carl off, you could at least gave him a really badass death. You could have had him like get sought up by the saviors or something, taking a ton of them out. You could have had him be the one to kill Simon and maybe get killed by something else in the area. I don't know, a bunch of walkers or something. You know, you could have had him go out with a bang. You know, not just get bit by one zombie and slowly die, which was a really emotional death. But at the same time, I'm sorry. This is once again where I'm saying comic book Carl was better because he I don't want to say he was crazy, but he kind of was. Like he just went out there and went for it more, you know. He had more moments like where he went to the sanctuary to kill Negan and stuff. He had moments where he would just take on like he would like have his little badass moments where he would take on the big bads. Like I remember he challenged Negan multiple times in the comic, and it definitely felt like there was more friction between Carl and Negan in the comics than there was in the show, like in terms of, you know, Carl always kind of challenging him and Carl always standing up to him. I mean, he did that in the show a couple times, but, you know, it didn't really happen as much. Like with the whole bat thing, I didn't like the remix of that where Rosita shot Lucille instead of Carl. Like, Carl straight up like almost off Negan from I forget, I think he was talking shit to Rick getting ready to kill him or something. Carl just pops a bullet at him. So stuff like that, I feel like we just missed out with the character. I feel like they still had a lot of opportunities to do that going forward. I feel like they just threw a really great opportunity away. Once again, I said this in one of my other videos, but I hope, bro, I'll be so salty if they come out and say we couldn't afford to pay him what he wanted. I'll be like, what the heck? Wait a second, AMC. You couldn't afford to pay Carl what he wanted. You couldn't afford to pay Maggie what she wanted. But you're telling me you still have all of these other characters that you're not going to need as much. Like Daryl is still in here, Tara is still in here. Like, you don't need those characters for a story. You need characters like Carl and Maggie. So why are these characters the ones that seem to be getting taken out or being put at risk of us losing? And right now, no one's sure about the whole Lauren Cohan thing with her signing the contracts. I'm thinking she's still going to stay on. I'm thinking it's not really anything to seriously worry about. I don't think we have to worry about her going anywhere for at least, like, I'm going to say 2-3 more seasons, which I think, as long as they do it right, could be okay. But yeah, like, this, in my opinion, it just could have been done better. That's all I'm saying. It could have been done better. There could have been a better time for it, and it shouldn't have been done in the first place. But if you had to do it, there were multiple other ways to do it better. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave likes and comments down below, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. ZFR out.